Badlands, running to Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Geopolitics of the Ghost. I'm your host, Gordon McCormick. Today, the Ghost of Base Patrick Henry. Today is December 30th, 2025, and it is the day after the long-anticipated Trump-Netanyahu meeting, which we will obviously start with. We covered this to some extent on Badlands Daily this morning. I didn't go too deep on Daily because it was just not prudent for the format, but we'll go a little deeper here in this show. And I don't know how long I'll go today. My whole family's sick, so it may only be like an hour and a half show, but we'll kind of play it by ear here. Kind of just waiting to see what my wife needs from me. So kids are with my mom, so we are good to go for the time being. All right. So let's just jump into it and get rolling as quickly as we can. Get the chat up on screen. What's up, chat? I hope everyone had a good Christmas. Merry Christmas to everyone. The computer's being a little laggy right now, so hopefully that's not translating over. I was just downloading a lot of like really large CSV files because I've been working on this project, like trying to track terrorist activity in Africa based on food prices, but it's tedious work and getting the data. We'll look at that maybe if we have time after we talk about Netanyahu, but it's interesting. What I'm finding is pretty interesting. All right, so let's pull this up. Thought one of the might be easier to kind of look at. We're not going to listen to the whole 27-minute press briefing, but we'll kind of jump through it. I think I was listening to it again for like the third time. I think I had it 1.5. I'll play it on normal.
Israel and from the U.S. And I think we came to a lot of conclusion and conclusions. And there's very little difference in what we're looking at and where we want to be, where we want to go. And so I just want to thank you for spending time. I know you're going to be over here for a couple of days, and maybe we'll be surprising us on New Year's Eve. That'll be fine.
Oh, thank you.
And it's wonderful seeing you and Sarah and your whole group. Very talented group. We've done very good work together, and it'll continue. So thank you very much, baby.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have to say that in addition to what I said, that we've never had a friend, even close, a friend, as President Trump in the White House. I think he's been extraordinary in his friendship and his support for Israel, his principled positions, his willingness to just cut through and get to the essence of things. And I don't say that as a compliment. I just mean it. People have heard me say that behind your back, Mr. President, many times. But I want to say something else. I think we have a partnership, if I can quote you, second to none. I think it's allowed us to do enormous things. People said there was a different conception at one time, which means that America can advance its interests in the Middle East if it opens a lot of daylight between it and Israel. And President Trump has done the exact opposite. He's achieved remarkable things in the Middle East because we work together. We talk about our ideas. Sometimes we have different ideas, but we work it out. And most of the time we see eye to eye. But it's been a remarkable experience, and this was a very, very productive meeting. And may I say, a very good lunch. Thank you. Thank you for your friendship.
Thank you very much, baby.
And thank you for your support. It's meant from the heart.
Thank you. You know, as I said outside, he's been a wartime prime minister.
All right, so there's like a few early notes here. Obviously, BB's dressed up like Trump. He's wearing the black suit as opposed to Trump's blue suit. But other than that, I mean, everything right down to the red, the silk red necktie, the flag lapel. I mean, he's wearing Israel. Trump's wearing the USA. It's like copy paste Trump onto BB, right? That's the first thing. Second of all, BB looks different here. I mean, there's something that's, everyone's really frustrated about this meeting and press conference, and I get it. I mean, I was a little frustrated the first time I saw it live, but the more I've watched it, the more I have cut through the big headlines and kind of noticed more of the nuance and noticed more of the like the details. And I think the details when it comes to a lot of these sort of meetings are important to pick up on, because I think Trump is very intentional when he says stuff in these kind of meetings, especially a moment like this. He understands how important this moment is, and that the eyes of the world are kind of watching this as the signal setter for what is going to happen in the future in the Middle East. BB looks different. He looks very meek. He almost looks like he's lost weight. I don't know, but dressed like Trump. It's a very different Netanyahu than the Netanyahu we saw back in September come to the UN and give that like defiant speech where he was like, "We don't care what y'all think about us. This is Israel. We are Israel. We're going to do whatever we need to do to protect ourselves." Very different Netanyahu. This is like a very meek, timid. You can see his eyes darting around. There's a little bit of panic, it seems, on his face. It's not like I don't see him exuding confidence here. I don't know what that means, though. Like, I don't know if it means that him and Trump have some sort of a capitulation. I don't know if it means that he's trying to play Trump. Chris Paul has our boy Yuhu theory. Him and I agree on the fact that I think Netanyahu is Trump's guy. Like, Trump wants Netanyahu in the position. You're going to actually hear Trump say that later in the briefing. But the difference between Chris and I has ultimately been that BB's in on it, like in on the op, whereas like my belief has been that Trump is basically manipulating Netanyahu, understanding with external incentives. Doesn't really matter who's right, because ultimately the net effect is the same. However, there's a chance that maybe Chris is right. There's a chance that maybe there is some sort of a capitulation here, that there is some sort of a Netanyahu looking to Trump to save his ass, basically. So I don't know, but a lot of interesting things I'm noticing. If you just watch Netanyahu's facial expressions throughout this entire press briefing, he seems very unsure of himself in a way that you would not expect him to behave if he was getting everything he wanted, which is on the surface at the headline level appears to be that way. That's what everyone's freaking out about, that Trump is Netanyahu's servant, basically. So with that said, let's keep going.
We were, I guess I could say I was a wartime president in more places than just Israel, if you think about it. But Israel was a big factor, and we're with you, and we'll continue to be with you. And a lot of good things are happening in the Middle East. We have peace in the Middle East, and we're going to try and keep it that way. I think we will be very successful in keeping it that way. And you've been a great friend, and I've been a great friend to you and to Israel, and it's been my honor. And the award that I was given was really surprising and very much appreciated.
Well, President Trump.
Okay, so he's referring to when they did their earlier appearance, like in front of the front doors of Mar-a-Lago, which was more of a boilerplate session. This is before they actually sat down and had like their meeting. Netanyahu announced that they were going to break the mold and they were going to give this thing, I think it was called the Israel Award or the Israel Prize, which is normally only given to an Israeli citizen, is given to Trump. I mean, big deal. Whatever, some stupid Nobel Peace Prize at the Israeli level.
Has broken so many conventions to the surprise of people, and then they figure out, oh, well, maybe, he was right after all. So we decided to break a convention too, or create a new one, and that is to award the Israel Prize, which in almost our 80 years, we've never awarded it to a non-Israeli. And we're going to award it this year to President Trump. This was announced formally over lunch by our Minister of Education, who's responsible for the Israel Prize. It's going to be awarded to President Donald J. Trump for his tremendous contributions to Israel and the Jewish people.
All right, so now we're going to jump ahead to when they talk about disarming Hamas.
Destroy our civilization. So, again, that's an expression of thanks and appreciation.
Thank you, baby, very much. That really is a great honor. Any questions, please? We'll go pretty quickly because pretty much we agree on most of the things, and you would know what most of those things are. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to know if you and the Prime Minister talked about having Israel pull back its troops before Hamas fully disarms. I know that's been an issue. Did you push for that today?
Well, we talked about Hamas and we talked about disarmament, and they're going to be given a very short period of time to disarm, and we'll see how that works out. Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner will be in charge of that from our side, but if they don't disarm as they agreed to do, they agreed to it, and then they'll be held to pay for them. And we don't want that. We're not looking for that. But they have to disarm within a fairly short period of time.
Is Israel withdrawing its forces?
Well, that's a separate subject. We'll talk about that.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Mr. President, did you have a message for the Prime Minister about the West Bank? And are you at all concerned that Israeli settler violence, could be undermining the peace plan?
Well, we have had a big discussion for a long time on the West Bank. And I wouldn't say we agree on the West Bank 100%, but we...
Okay, so this is the key part here. Like, watch Netanyahu's face. The question being the West Bank, and what they're asking is, are you going to allow Israel to do what they are saying they're going to do back at home, back in Tel Aviv? They're saying Jerusalem. They're saying they're going to physically erase Palestine and just annex all of it, and it's all going to become part of Israel. Are you going to allow them to do that? That's the question he's just been asked. Watch Netanyahu's face. Listen to what Trump says.
We'll come to a conclusion on the West Bank.
If I could ask, what is the disagreement?
Well, I don't want to do that. It'll be...
We don't agree on the West Bank, and the reporter asks, what is the disagreement? And the response is this:
be announced at an appropriate time. But he will do the right thing. I know that. I know him very well.
He will do the right thing, and Bibi's giving this cute little smirk, like, oh yeah, like I really am. But you gotta remember, everyone's watching this. The people that have the knife at Netanyahu's back, the people who expect Trump to capitulate and do everything that Netanyahu wants him to do, which is annex Palestine. We'll keep going.
Well, he will do the right thing. Yes.
There is a growing fear of a confrontation between Israel and Turkey. How are you going to ease this tension given the fact...
All right, so we go right. So Trump just shoots down the West Bank thing, says we're not going to talk about the West Bank right now because obviously the answer that Trump's going to say is no, you're not going to annex Palestine. And so we'll address that at a different time. Then we go straight from that to the conflict between Turkey and Israel, which is Erdogan.
President Erdogan calls Mr. Netanyahu Hitler and compares Israel to the Nazis.
Well, I know President Erdogan very well. And as you all know, he's a very good friend of mine. And I believe that, and I do respect him, and Bibi respects him. And they're not going to have a problem. They're not going to have a problem. I know him very well. And you've seen me do things with President Erdogan and Turkey that nobody else could have done. We're not going to have a problem. He's done a fantastic job. I'm with him all the way. I'm with Bibi all the way. Nothing's going to happen. Yes.
Yeah, nothing's going to happen, meaning Turkey's not going to attack Israel. So there's no concern about Turkey attacking Israel. Can't say the other way, but nothing's going to happen, meaning Turkey is not going to attack Israel.
Concern that Israel is not moving quickly enough to phase 2 of the peace plan?
Well, I'm not concerned about anything that Israel's doing. I'm concerned about what other people are doing or maybe aren't doing. But I'm not concerned. They've lived up to the plan. They're strong. They're solid. And sometimes they don't understand when somebody violates something that you want to give them a second chance. Well, we'll give them a couple of second chances. But no, Israel's lived up to the plan 100%. Don't forget, we made the plan possible by.
That's not true, by the way, but I guess maybe for the most part, if you want to look at it that way, but that's not entirely true.
Taking out Iran. And speaking of Iran, I hope they're not trying to build up again, because if they are, we're going to have no choice but very quickly to eradicate that buildup. So I hope Iran is not trying to build up, as I've been reading that they're building up weapons and other things. And if they are, they're not using the sites that we obliterated, but they're using possibly different sites. We know exactly where they're going, what they're doing. And I hope they're not doing it, because we don't want to waste the fuel on a B-2. It's a 37-hour trip both ways. I don't want to waste a lot of fuel. Okay?
President Trump, with your last remarks regarding the pardon request of Prime Minister Netanyahu, Herzog office told us that you have not talked after the official request of Prime Minister. Okay, so there's, Iran came up a few times in the pre-game out in front of Mar-a-Lago, and then this one, kind of a cartoonish response from Trump, like, yeah, we're going to go bomb Iran if they mess around. Trump's been the one talking about rebuilding Iran's nuclear facilities, giving them nuclear energy. Obviously, him and Putin are working hand in hand in reestablishing or redrawing the global architecture of security and diplomacy. Iran is a key part of that, and we understand that Putin considers Iran to be his key ally in the Middle East, along with Saudi Arabia. So that is certainly notable. I don't think that Trump's being serious about bombing Iran, but of course, everyone else is going to, with their hair on fire, scream about how we're going to war with Iran. I mean, we've heard this song and dance before. It's just not going to happen, because it would be World War III. It is annoying to hear it said out loud. But again, I think there's lip service being paid here, because, as I said on the show this morning, I think that if you don't have the economic framework in place for a prosperous economy, if you introduce the political turmoil that is going to come when you turn the apparatus against itself, when you start rounding up all the deep state actors, when you turn against Israel, when you try to buck the system, so to speak, there are a lot of things. It's not about the people, the public responding. The public's not going to care. That's not the issue here. The issue is, what are the actors that are inside of the apparatus that you're now trying to take down? The allies of Netanyahu, the Mark Levins, the Laura Loomers, all of their little servants, all their little minions that have infiltrated our system. Remember, infiltration, not invasion, right? What are they going to do? What levers are they going to pull? What traps are they going to spring? What ambushes are they going to launch against the American people in order to basically collapse our society? That all is thwarted if you have a strong economy. People will defect from that, because if people have a strong economic opportunity in front of them, if they have a good job, if they're making good money, if they feel confident in their finances, they're not going to succumb to political revolution. They're not going to succumb to the song of hey, let's overthrow everything and go burn it all down, which is what you don't want to happen. You don't want people to say, let's go burn it all down. You want to extract the parasite that is sucking the life force out of America. Netanyahu, pardon. Can you clarify to us, did you talk
Which
about
request are you talking about?
With the President Herzog, the Israeli President Herzog? Did you talk with him directly?
President Erdogan?
Herzog.
So they're jumping all over the place. We're going now from Turkey back to Israel. President Herzog, and they're talking about the pardon with Netanyahu. Look at Netanyahu's face here. So they're asking about the pardon, which Herzog said he's not going to pardon Netanyahu. He's basically come out and publicly said that, but he said it's a 2 to 3 month review, so he won't have a firm answer until, I don't know, February, maybe
February, it sounds like, maybe March, but February is when he's going to have his answer, whether or not he pardons Netanyahu. Trump is asking him to, obviously.
So you're talking about pardon?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you got to say that. No, I think he's going to be in great shape. He's a wartime prime minister.
All right, so look at Netanyahu shifting his eyes around. Like, I don't know. He looks very nervous. And the pardon, like, who knows if this pardon actually matters? I mean, Netanyahu could get pardoned for this stuff, for these crimes, and then get turned around and charged with way worse crimes, right? I mean, but the evidence that is out there right now, he will be convicted on these crimes, and he's facing 15 years in prison. And the likelihood is that he will serve at least 10. That's what all the analysis in Israel is saying, is that he will be convicted. It's 5 years, I believe, per charge, and he will probably get at least 10 years, if not 15 years in prison. So that's a life sentence for a guy his age.
The highest level, he's achieved tremendous success. And I'll say it, if you had 8 out of 10 prime ministers in his position.
All right, so this is the part that I thought was interesting. Basically, if anyone else was prime minister, this wouldn't work out right now. He's saying Israel would be erased, which I'll give the analysis when he's done talking.
Right now, or before right now, maybe, you wouldn't have Israel any longer. Israel would not exist. I'd say two of them would, and 8 of them wouldn't. Those are not good odds. You needed a very special man to really carry through and really help Israel through this horrible jam. These are major factions, and it started with our negotiation with Iran. I think it probably started with Soleimani.
Boom. There it is. Soleimani. Okay. Walk back. We played the clip on this show a few weeks ago. Remember the clip of Barak Ravid giving the download to Israeli media back at the end of 2020, or it was 2022, I guess, at that point, from a conversation he had with Trump in December 2021, where Trump explained to him that Netanyahu, the night before they were supposed to kill Soleimani, Israel was supposed to kill Soleimani with U.S. intelligence backing. Israel backed out, and so Trump turned to he turned to his generals, and his generals said, "We can do it ourselves if you want." And Trump said, "Let's do it." And so we went and killed Soleimani without Israel. And Trump said he would never forgive Netanyahu. That was when he finally told the American public in 2023 about that. He said, "I will never forgive Netanyahu for doing that, for backing out." My speculation, that's all it is that Soleimani was a Mossad asset. He was running all the proxy groups throughout the Middle East. He was running all the terrorist groups from Iran on behalf of Mossad. And the idea was that he was going to launch a proxy war against Israel that would start a regional war in the Middle East, effectively starting World War that would lead to World War III. And maybe Israel does get destroyed. Maybe what Trump just said right there, if any other prime minister had been in place, Israel does get destroyed. I think that might have been the plan. I think the plan might have been to basically bomb Israel to the point where the global community has such sympathy for what, I mean, remember October 7th, 1,200 people were killed by Israel, mostly by Israel. And the whole world was ready to go to war on behalf of Israel. Imagine if Israel was just bombed out by proxies from around the region. Imagine the global response to that before October 7th. Ever since October 7th, the world has soured on Israel and has basically views Israel as a big impediment to world peace. But before October 7th, the world would have been ready to go to war on behalf of Israel. That is a fact. So he says, I think it all started with Soleimani. We killed Soleimani. Look at Netanyahu's face. Netanyahu didn't want to kill Soleimani. He backed out because Netanyahu, I think, was handling Soleimani. I think taking out Soleimani basically removed the control mechanism for those proxy groups. And then Trump and Putin were able to go through and clean up all of ISIS, clean up most of those groups. Yeah, so let's keep going.
That was really where you mentioned that today, which started with Soleimani.
Isn't it interesting that Trump isn't bringing up the fact that Netanyahu backed out? He said he would never forgive Netanyahu for doing that. And here he is bringing up the one thing that he said really was a thorn in his side and that he doesn't respect Netanyahu over. Here he is bringing it up.
Bad guy, doing bad things, hurting a lot of people, killing American soldiers and other soldiers. But it started right there, would probably be the starting point. And then from that point forward, but you have a wartime prime minister at the highest level. There could be other wartime prime ministers, but they'd lose. He won. And I think the people of Israel appreciate it. I think a lot of the people in the world appreciate it, actually. And because of that victory, we were able to get peace in the Middle East. If you had a different kind of a personality, if you had a weak person or a stupid person, and there are plenty of both of them, you would not have had success, and you might not have Israel. And you report for Israel. I know you're very proud of it.
Okay, so Netanyahu is not comfortable right now. You can see he's not comfortable. He's kind of shifting in his seat. He's moving his hands around. Trump, who is Trump speaking to right now? I think he's speaking to the diaspora. I think he's speaking to the people who back Netanyahu. You would assume most of those people would understand the relationship between Soleimani, if my theory is correct. But the fact that Trump is sitting out here pretending that Netanyahu was the one who defeated Soleimani and that Israel achieved this great victory, he's kind of like revising history on their behalf. And again, this is like stroking the ego of the overzealous egomaniac, right? Like Israel is known for its hubris. I mean, the diaspora is known for their hubris. Netanyahu is known for his ego. And Trump is sitting here stroking all their egos and being like, yep, y'all are the ones who defeated Soleimani. Y'all are the ones who brought peace to the Middle East. Y'all are these great conquerors. You're these great war heroes. Y'all are awesome. I mean, not the truth. He's telling a lie here. But he's stroking the ego of the people who I think he's trying to placate and mislead. He's trying to keep them at bay because these are the people who I believe have the ability to destroy the U.S. economy if they wanted to, if they saw it as a threat to them, if they saw that there was no other way out, they scuttle the ship and rather than surrender it to the enemy. That's what I think Trump's trying to thwart here. It's just a theory.
You do a great job. You might not have a job because there might not be an Israel right now if you had a different prime minister. That's a big statement, but to me, it's a very simple statement to make. I'm looking at Pete Hegseth, and he's sort of nodding. If they don't have a strong prime minister, Pete, you might not have Israel today. I think he'll go down in the record books. And, you know, I was a big help. I'll be honest with you, big help. Somebody said in the room, if you don't have Trump, you needed a proper combination of everything. And if you didn't have that combination, which they had, you would not have an existing Israel right now. And the people.
Okay. And I know that there are people who are going to say like, this is like, you're reaching here, but Matt Arrett and I have talked about this before. Henry Kissinger on September 17th, 2012, the New York Post published a gossip columnist, Cindy Adams. She published in the New York Post that Henry Kissinger said in 10 years, this is 2012, in 10 years, there will be no more Israel. Kissinger is like one of the people who created Israel. He's Jewish. He's the one who went over and negotiated the end of the oil embargo in 1974. He's the one who negotiated the petrodollar. He's responsible for basically the dominance of Israel going back the past 50 years. And this was, of course, denied later, but this was definitely published. I've seen the publication. This was 100% published in 2012. Now, Google is saying there's no credible evidence this actually happened. There is definitely credible evidence this actually happened, and that Kissinger said that, and that he said that in 10 years there will be no Israel. The idea that the speculation that the plan was to destroy Israel in order to create almost like a Holocaust 2.0 narrative to justify crackdown on hate speech, crackdown on internet behavior, crackdown on thought police, that kind of thing. That's not far-fetched at all. I think that's actually a really, really like sacrificing the nation of Israel. The elites, of course, get away, but the nation of Israel is the lamb that gets sacrificed. And then you get basically unipolar global governance after that in order to control behavior and make sure it never happens again. Never again times a million, right? Like the never again from the Holocaust movement times a million. That's what I think we were looking at. It's not unfounded, I think, to speculate that.
People of Israel know it. That's why they like me, and it's why they actually like him. He's got a little bit of a love-hate more than I do over there. But you know what? Even the haters have a lot of respect for him. There's a lot of jealousy about him. A lot of jealousy. Jealousy is a bad word, but I believe you would not have Israel right now. So it's a big deal. Yeah, please.
A recent poll showed that as many as half of Gazans would be willing to leave the Gaza Strip if afforded the opportunity to do so. Back in February, you said that all Gazans would leave.
I heard that number today. Half of Gaza would leave. I've always said it. I said if they were given the opportunity to live in a better climate, they would move. They're there because they sort of have to be. I think it would be a great opportunity, but let's see if that opportunity presents itself. But we're helping.
Yeah, so that's a line that I think pissed a lot of people off, and rightfully so. Forcibly moving a population against their will is a war is one of the definitive war crimes spelled out in the Geneva Convention. That is the essence of ethnic cleansing. So yeah, that's what everyone accused Trump of calling for back in February when he said, the Gaza Riviera, and then he walked back and said, yeah, we're actually not going to force anybody to move. Now, what he's about to clarify is that if they want to go, they can go. That's not what Bibi Netanyahu and his friends have said in Israel, is that they will go or they will die. Two very different presentations. Let's finish this clip.
The people of Gaza a lot. So is Israel, by the way. So we'll see what happens. But I saw that it was a poll. It was actually more than half the people would leave if they were given the opportunity. And I've been saying that for a long time. To me, it was common sense. So it's interesting.
Why wouldn't countries accept that?
Look, let's not talk about it because we don't want the controversy. Right now, we're helping Gaza. But
so the question was, why wouldn't other countries take Gazans? Which is true. All the other countries, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, they're all saying we're not taking the Gazans. And the Israeli diaspora, their Hasbara network has been putting out, well, the reason they don't want to take them is because they're all a bunch of ruthless animals. They're subhuman. That's not the reason. The reason they don't want to take them is because they don't want to see people forcibly displaced from their homes. The same reason that, like, if everybody in Virginia was forced to leave Virginia, and North Carolina, West Virginia, and Maryland all said, we're not taking them because we don't want them to leave, it would be like the news spinning it as if, well, the North Carolina doesn't want to take all these Virginians because these Virginians are dirty, filthy, subhuman animals. It's like, no, Egypt doesn't want to take the Gazans in because they don't think it's ethically sound to forcibly remove Gaza. Like, they're not going to surrender the Gazan territory to Israel. That's what this is about. It's not about the character of the Gazan people. That's one of the great lies it's told.
If they were given the opportunity, I think even higher than that, the group that did the poll is usually, I call them negative pollsters. You have a lot of them. And yet this poll was, I think, very accurate, other than it would be more than half the people if given the opportunity, but they haven't been given that opportunity. So we'll see what happens.
Point of understanding regarding Syria.
We do have an understanding regarding Syria. Now, with Syria, your new president, I respect him. He's a very strong guy, and that's what you need in Syria. You can't put a choir boy. You can't put somebody that's a perfect person. Everything's nice, no problems in life. You have the opposite there. He's a strong guy. We get along with him great. I can't ask for any more. He's been with us all the way. We had that mishap with ISIS, and he was with us all the way. He was fighting us. He was fighting them. So I hope Israel. I'm sure that Israel and him will get along. I will try and make it so that they do get along. I think they will. Bibi, do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, well, our interest is to have a peaceful border with Syria. Our interest is to have, and we openly say it, we want to make sure that the border area right next to our border is safe. We don't have terrorists, we don't have attacks, and we also want to secure our Druze friends. And by the way, I think not only the Druze, but other minorities, especially the Christians, should be protected as well in Syria and throughout the Middle East and in Nigeria.
Nobody protected Christians more than Assad did. So Assad was actually a protector of Christians. It was ISIS and the American-backed forces, the Israeli-backed forces, that went through and killed all the Christians and drove out all of the moderate Muslims. That is a fact.
Efforts we back completely because Christian communities are beleaguered around the world and especially in the Middle East, but in parts of Africa too. And we stand for the same thing.
And don't forget, it was President Erdogan that helped very much get rid of a very bad ruler of Syria. That was President Erdogan.
There you go.
And he never wanted the credit for it, but he really gets a lot of credit. Bibi agrees with that. I agree with, I mean, I know it. And President Erdogan should get a lot of good credit for what he did. He got rid of some very bad people. And, you know, they've been wanting to do that for 1,000 years with different names, but for 1,000 years in Syria, President Erdogan did it. And we give him a lot of credit. I give him a lot of credit. But I think it's going to work out well between Syria and Israel.
No affirmation from Netanyahu, no nodding of the head, no yes, that was Turkey's victory, that was Erdogan's victory, because Bibi has always tried to claim victory over Assad for himself, for Israel. In his eyes, it was Israel's victory, but Trump is since December of last year, Trump has made it very clear that this was Erdogan's victory, this was Turkey's doing. And remember, Turkey, Russia, Iran, and Assad were all meeting and talking about what is Assad's end look like. And they were meeting days before Assad was deposed, right? They were the Astana process is what they called it. That for years they were planning this out. And then they came out in the end of November of last year and said, we finally have a plan in place. We know what's going to happen. And then like a week later, Assad was overthrown.
Mr. President, about Lebanon.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
The Lebanese government, what you saw, is not...
All right, so now we're going to Lebanon and Hezbollah. They are credit to them. We're 15 minutes in. They are rolling through the topics.
Meeting the terms of the ceasefire agreement has failed to disarm Hezbollah, actually. In your view, should Israel strike the terrorist organization again?
Well, we're going to see about that. We'll see about it. The Lebanese government is at a little bit of a disadvantage, if you think of it, with Hezbollah. But Hezbollah has been behaving badly, so we'll see what happens.
That's actually a contradiction to what Tom Barrack has been saying. Tom Barrack, Trump's best friend, the ambassador to Turkey and the special envoy to Syria, has been saying that Hezbollah has actually been very well behaved ever since they signed that peace treaty with Israel last year. Remember what happened? They signed the peace treaty. As soon as they signed the peace treaty, Netanyahu gets on a plane to fly to America, and while he's on the plane, the pager attack happens, remember? And then the day after the pager attack, a second radio attack happens where they blow up hand radios and kill more people. And there hasn't been a response from Hezbollah on that. According to Tom Barrack, Hezbollah has not broken the ceasefire since they signed that last year. And yet, in the past few weeks, Israel has been killing Hezbollah leaders in Lebanon. So Trump is not presenting the truth when he says that Hezbollah has been misbehaving. It's actually Israel that's been killing Hezbollah the past couple weeks.
Of Israel in Iran, you said before the meeting with Netanyahu that you are in support of Israel if the ballistic missile project will take on and also the nuclear weapon. But after the meeting, after what you know from the intelligence, how close are we to another war with Iran?
Well, I don't want to say that, but Iran may be behaving badly. It hasn't been confirmed, but if it's confirmed, look, they know the consequence.
It hasn't been confirmed that Iran's doing anything wrong. I mean, there's the signal through all this bullshit is when Trump says it hasn't been confirmed that Iran's done anything wrong, but if they are doing something wrong,
consequences will be very powerful, maybe more powerful than the last time. Yeah. And Iran should have made a deal the last time. I gave them the option. I said, you can make a deal. Do it. I told them, do it. And they didn't believe me. Now they believe me.
Evidence that Iran is behaving badly, and what do you mean by that?
This is just what we hear. But usually where there's smoke, there's fire. Have you heard the expression?
What do you mean related to the nuclear capability?
Well, no, I'm hearing that they're not nuclear yet, but maybe nuclear too. The sites were obliterated, but they're looking at other sites. That's what I've heard. They're looking. So it'll take a long time. They're not going to go back to where they were, but they have other places they can go. And if they're doing that, they're making a big mistake. Yeah, please. There's no reason for them to do it.
Mr. President, is the United States currently open to engaging in bilateral discussions with Tehran? We're hearing reports from numerous countries that there may be some discussions. Is that something you would support, or something that is
I would.
You would support that?
I would, yes.
Right now.
Okay. Like that, there's the headline that just got buried beneath everything else. Would the U.S. be open to bilateral discussions with Tehran, with Iran? And Trump said, "Yeah." He said, "There's a lot of rumors out there among other countries that y'all are already talking that there might be some conversation happening." And Trump says, "Yes, I would be open to bilateral discussions with Iran." I mean, okay.
Thank you, sir. I have been, by the way, before the war, I would support that. I said to him, "Baby," I said, "let's negotiate." And they didn't believe what was going to happen would happen. Yes, ma'am.
China's been doing naval exercises basically to test encircling Taiwan. Can you explain to us what your knowledge is of that? What do you think about that? Have you had any discussions with China?
Well, I have a great
that?
relationship with President Xi, and he hasn't told me anything about it. I certainly have seen it, but he hasn't told me anything about it. And I don't believe he's going to be doing it. No, nothing worries me. Nothing.
Where there's smoke, there's fire, right? So if you're if you're doing naval exercises and air exercises.
Well, they've been doing naval exercises for 20 years in that area. Now people take it a little bit differently, but in fact, larger than they're doing right now. So we'll see. But they've been doing that for 20, 25 years. Yeah.
Mr. President, if you don't see Hamas disarm in that short amount of time that you're giving them, can you tell us what the next steps would be?
It'll be horrible for them. Horrible. It's going to be really, really bad for them. And I don't want that to happen. But they made an agreement that they were going to disarm. And you couldn't blame Israel. By the way, we have other countries that will come in and do it. They said, let us do it for you if they don't. Countries that were with them wanted the deal to be made, agreed that they would disarm. And now if they say they're going to disarm, that's fine. If they say they're not going to disarm, those same countries will go and wipe them out. They don't even need Israel. You know, we have many countries, 59 countries that are in agreement. This is a real peace in the Middle East. And Hamas is a small part of it, but it's still a part of it. But we have 59 countries that signed on, big countries, countries that are outside of the Middle East, as you know the Middle East. They want to go in and wipe out Hamas. They don't want Israel. They don't need Israel. They want to do it because it's the right thing to do, because they were for the deal based on the fact that Hamas pledged, they swore that they were going to disarm. Now, if they're not going to disarm, those same countries will wipe out Hamas. Yeah.
President Trump, do you think that the PA should be involved the day after in Gaza Strip, even in the near future? And the same question to Prime Minister Netanyahu. Do you see a real opportunity that the PA will be in Gaza?
Go ahead, Mimi.
I think President Trump put clearly the conditions of reform.
Okay, so the question, it was clearly from an Israeli journalist. Do you see the Palestinian Authority having a government in Gaza, like having a role in the government in Gaza post Hamas? And Trump kicks it to Netanyahu first. This is a boss they're talking about here.
That he wants to see in the PA for them to be involved. And I think he put it very clearly what he wants to see, the kind of real reforms, not just perfunctory reforms, but real reforms. Stop pay to slay, change the curriculum in your textbooks, open up, a different society and a different future. If they do it, well, let them, I think it was clear. He put
pretty clear.
He put guidelines that were, by the way, in the Trump plan of 2020, and they were put then in the 20 points, and it's up to them.
Remember this: if we didn't do what we did to Iran, just to make the subject just slightly different, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. You wouldn't have a deal signed in the Middle East. You wouldn't have a deal, because other Arab nations, which are great people. I know them very well. I know them. They're great people. They wouldn't be able to have agreed to peace in the Middle East, because you would have had a dark cloud hanging over everything. It wouldn't have been possible.
And again, I think he's referring there to Soleimani. Like, I think the context that's being presented right in this moment is that he's talking about the 12-day war. I think he's referring to Soleimani. If we hadn't taken out Soleimani, there wouldn't have been peace in the Middle East. The Arab countries wouldn't have made peace with Iran, which they have done. They did that in November 2023. They haven't been friends with Iran since the late 1970s. And all of a sudden they made peace with them a month after October 7th.
So Iran has been greatly reduced in power, prestige. I don't want to use the word humiliation because, they're trying to build up again. But we can't let them build up, because if they build up, there can't be peace in the Middle East. It was a mistake. When they wiped out Iraq and Iran were about the same power. And they fought each other with different names for 1,000 years. And then our country came out and blew up one of those two countries, namely Iraq. And all of a sudden, Iran had the whole Middle East all to itself. But that's not true anymore.
See, Trump just told you the truth right there. The Iraq war was all about clearing the table in the Middle East to allow the radical elements in Iran, which had been cultivated most likely by MI6 and the CIA, because they're the ones who installed the Ayatollah. They're the ones who installed the Shah. They've controlled Iran since 1953. To allow all of those proxies to flood in to the Middle East and take over the Middle East. That's what the Iraq war was about. It was clearing the table, because Iraq and Iran were a counterbalancing force. They were equal armies until the 80s, when we armed Saddam, we armed the Ayatollah, and then we told them to kill each other. And they did. It was one of the most brutal wars of the 20th century. It was World War I technology, basically, with World War II tactics, where guys were just getting destroyed by sarin gas and mustard gas and machine guns and flamethrowers and just brutal warfare. Some of the most brutal warfare of the 20th century was the Iraq-Iran war of the 1980s, and we were backing both sides.
It's not true anymore.
Tell us something about your plan to expand the Abraham Accords. If you can tell us something about your plan to expand the Abraham Accords.
Well, the Abraham Accords are a great achievement of Jared and everybody. I mean, it was one of the great achievements. They'll be expanded. Countries are already talking about expanding it, and they'll be expanded fairly quickly. Yeah, please.
Saudi Arabia, is it still on the table? The normalization.
Saudi Arabia is great. We have a great leader, and a friend of mine, and a friend of a lot of people. Also an enemy of some people, but those people aren't doing so well. Saudi Arabia has been very good.
An enemy to some people. That would be the Republican Party and the Israeli government, basically.
As far as I'm concerned, they've done everything that we can ask for.
But normalization with Israel is on the
they're getting along great with Israel. They will. And at some point, they'll sign the Abraham Accords.
Mr. President, we know. So one of the big domestic tasks ahead of you is to pick a new chairman for the Fed.
Yeah.
You've said that you have one favorite, but you're also doing interviews.
Still do. Hasn't changed. Yeah, I'll announce him at the right time. There's plenty of time.
But
in the meantime, we're doing numbers that nobody's ever seen. We have $18 trillion coming in. We had a 4.3% GDP. They thought it was going to be 2%. And that's despite the Democrats shutdown. Had the shutdown not occurred, we would have had an extra 1.25. Think of that. We are doing, and also despite the fact that we have a fool at the Federal Reserve. I mean, Biden reappointed him, and it's too bad. You would have thought he wouldn't have done that. But he's an absolute fool who's building a new Federal Reserve, or he's doing.
All right, so this is really interesting. I want to get back to some of the comments he said earlier, but this is a really interesting way to wrap up this press conference. Listen to what Trump says here about Jerome Powell. If you believe in the continuity of government devolution theory, then Biden picking Jerome Powell to be the Fed chair was really Trump picking Jerome Powell, and that would track with the fact that Trump hasn't fired him. Trump has the authority to fire him, but he hasn't fired him yet. He's made a fool out of him. He's ridiculed him. He's embarrassed him over and over and over again. He's kind of become Trump's punching bag. Listen to what he says here. The fact that this wasn't like a headline kind of tells you everything you need to know.
A renovation of a building, maybe he's up to $4.1 billion to do a renovation of a few very small buildings. It's the highest price in the history of construction. He's spending more money than any building has ever spent per square foot on the renovation of, as an example, I'm doing a magnificent, big, beautiful ballroom that the country has wanted, the White House has wanted for 150 years. It's a massive job, and it's a tiny fraction of that number. And we're under budget and ahead of schedule. Now it's bigger than I told you. After realizing we're going to do the inauguration in that building, it's got all bulletproof glass. It's got all drone, they call it drone-free roof. So drones won't touch it. It's a big, beautiful, safe building. But it's a big project for a tiny fraction of that. We're under budget and ahead of schedule. And they've wanted it for 150 years. Think of it, the Federal Reserve building, 2 buildings there, they don't know what they're doing. They're way over budget. I mean, this was built during the Biden administration. And I rode by it the other day, and it's headed by the head of the Federal Reserve. Too late, too late, Powell. Too late because he's always too late with interest rates, except before the election. He was too early because that would have helped. That was supposed to help get her elected. It had no impact. We won all 7 swing states. But no. We're thinking about bringing a suit against Powell for incompetence, because think of it. These aren't outstanding buildings. These are small buildings. He's at $4 billion more. It's going to end up costing more than $4 billion. $4 billion. It's the highest price of construction. Again, Democrats, highest price of construction per square foot in the history of the world. There's never been. Gorgeous monuments are built for a much smaller price. So we're thinking about bringing a gross incompetence, what's called gross incompetence lawsuit. It's gross incompetence against Powell. And it was his baby. And the guy's just incompetent. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. He's just a very incompetent man. But we're going to.
Yeah. So announcing here that he's going to bring a suit against Powell, whatever that means. I don't know what that even means, but he's going to basically investigate Powell for, he's calling it incompetence, but I think we all understand what's actually happening here. This is money laundering. It's like every other story that involves the government and spending money. It's money laundering. $4 billion for 2 small buildings. Cowboy Stadium, that massive monolith that they built in Dallas, that was $1 billion. And they spent $4 to $5 billion, and Trump says it's going to be more than that, to renovate 2 small buildings in D.C. It's a joke.
And probably bring a lawsuit against him. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
And then he ends it immediately right after he says it. Yeah. Where are the headlines about that? Trump's bringing a lawsuit against the chairman of the Federal Reserve for incompetence because he squandered $5 billion on a construction project. I mean, yeah. So I thought this was interesting. If we go to, I didn't watch Bannon's show today. I don't most days, but he had on this guy who I'm not super familiar with this guy. I've seen him on a show before, but they were talking about this. And let's listen to this real quick. Because Bannon, of course, has become like the most anti-Netanyahu figure in the and I consider Bannon mainstream media. That's like the new mainstream media. I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I just mean in terms of his the optics of it all. But listen here.
Revelations of what's happening in Minneapolis. You've seen the fight in Chicago, New York, Los Angeles about not allowing ICE or not allowing federalized National Guard to come in and support ICE on mass deportations. The energy and focus and time it just takes for these endless wars, and particularly when it was the 7 or 9 guys you're across the table from, none of them want them to end. It's not that they're incentivized to keep them going because they stay in power this way, and the money keeps flowing from the arms industry. So is President Trump I mean, you saw Ukraine yesterday was 3 or 5 hours, hours in preparation, hours afterwards for decision making. Same thing today. Is the candle worth the game here, sir?
I mean, clearly not. The question is about how to bring this home and how to score a touchdown on it. I think the Israelis really don't want the wars to end. So I think it's important to tier this. And I think among the Israelis, Netanyahu really doesn't want them to end. And I think you see this rhetorically, or perhaps I should say in Israeli propaganda, that they'll effectively operate and co-opt any talking point if they need to. So they've seen the writing on the wall on defense spending. The U.S. Does not want to continue funding defense expenditures for the Israelis. It makes no sense. It's not voguish on the right to advocate for it. And so they'll move the goalposts and say, oh, that's okay. We don't actually support defense spending. But then they'll lobby for all other types of military support in back channels. And I think that's what you saw today. I mean, if Israel really didn't need the United States, what is Netanyahu doing here days before the new year? What is Netanyahu in private briefings with the Secretary of War and the President of the United States demanding potential U.S. strikes on the Iranian ICBM missiles, not nuclear weapons? The goalposts have already moved from that. That was the Israeli talking point since the 90s. And because they know they will enrage President Trump by claiming that the Iranians maybe still have nukes, I think they do, then they're moving to these missiles, which is just, if that's the criterion, as I said in the earlier segment, we're going to war tonight. And so I'm not sure if President Trump quite realized what he committed to there, but it's very dangerous stuff if the president wants to keep his pledge to keep us out of endless wars. That's what the man on the street understands. This is all well and good. And if this pageantry, if this deal making results in accords, then I will be the first to celebrate it. And I think that, the madman theory of diplomacy will have borne fruit. But if it results in the wars continue and that the average voter, the average MAGA voter, is either motivated for 2026 or outright hostile to the legacy of this administration on foreign policy, that's bad news for Trump's legacy. That's bad news for potential successors. That's bad.
Yeah, so that clip didn't have it, but I saw a clip earlier where Bannon lays out that the whole crux of this meeting was figuring out whose job it was going to be to disarm Hamas. They mentioned that earlier during the press briefing. They didn't really harp on it. It's going to be Turkey, by the way. Turkey's going to be the one doing it. Bannon already said that at Turning Point USA last week on stage. Qatar is going to fund the rebuild. Turkey's going to disarm Hamas and run security. Although I do think that, aside from the election stuff, because that's all nonsense that I don't even waste my time talking about. I think that that he's right about the demoralization of the American people getting into another war. When he says that does Trump even know what he's doing? I think Trump knows exactly what he's doing. I think Trump understands this issue very well. Like I said before, I think we're just stalling at this point to allow the economy to turn back on, which it hasn't done yet. It will at some point in 2026. When it does, then we will be in a position where we can actually leverage the political stuff and go after these and deal with these political issues. Until then, we're kind of just treading water, because again, if you understand what the diaspora is not just a political organization, a network. It is media, it's banking, it's finance, it's everything. And they will move heaven and earth to make sure that Israel's interests, or their interests, which happens to be Israel, are promoted. And I think that if you're going to take on the diaspora, you better make sure that you have a strong war chest, which means having a strong economy, because the average American person is not going to support anything if the economy is in shambles. So that's where I think this all comes down to. Let's take a break. We'll come back and see how much time we can do covering a few other things, because I do want to talk about Putin. Let's see. All right, this is Geopolitics with Ghost, first hour in the books.
Soft Disclosure just dropped new favorites for the season. The lotion, your 5-ounce favorite, is still here. And now we've added full 11-ounce bottles. New Lavender Tea Tree Deodorant, clean, calm, and effective. New Tallow Bars, Chamomile Lemon Rose, and Naked. Rich moisture that actually works. And now the lineup is complete. Beard oil in unscented and spiced vanilla. Palo lip balms, available in chamomile mint, vanilla, naked, and vanilla tangerine. Palo Bar Minis for pocket-ready hydration. Available in vanilla coffee and naked. And finally, lavender vanilla lotion. Clean, calm, and made to work. Visit softdisclosure.com. Use code Badlands and get 15% off. Soft Disclosure, for truth you can gift.
Stack Sats with River, the Bitcoin-only platform built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. Why River? Zero fee and recurring buy. Stack Bitcoin effortlessly, hourly, daily, weekly, or monthly. 3.5% Bitcoin interest on cash. FDIC insured. No minimums. Withdraw anytime. Expert US-based support. Human help plus private client services for big buys over $100,000. Business accounts boost your balance sheet with Bitcoin and earn 3.5% paid in BTC. Top tier wallet, send, receive, and manage Bitcoin securely. Unmatched security, full reserve custody, multi-sig cold storage, and proof of reserves. Join the Bitcoin revolution at badlandsmedia.tv/river and earn real returns. That's badlandsmedia.tv/river. Your crypto deserves the ultimate protection, and Trezor delivers just that. Trezor offers a secure and user-friendly solution for managing your digital assets. It delivers on its promise of robust security, providing a crucial layer of protection against online threats and unauthorized access. Since 2014, over 2 million users have trusted Trezor with the world's first hardware wallet to secure their Bitcoin, Ethereum, and over 9,000 other coins and tokens. With state-of-the-art encryption and offline storage, Trezor keeps your assets safe from hackers, malware, and exchange breaches. Its open-source design ensures transparency, while the Trezor Suite app makes managing your portfolio a breeze. Buy, sell, swap, and track with ease. Designed with simplicity in mind, Trezor ensures that even those new to cryptocurrency can navigate its features with ease. With Trezor, you can confidently manage your cryptocurrencies, knowing that your digital wealth is protected by industry-leading security protocols. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/Trezor to get your Trezor and safeguard your crypto with confidence. That's badlandsmedia.tv/Trezor. All right. Welcome back, everybody, to Geopolitics and Ghost. I don't know if we're going to do a full hour. The second half, we will get through as much as we can. I really wanted to talk about the Putin stuff. Obviously, that's a big deal. So let's jump into that. All right. So pull up the right. Stand by for processing. All right. So I wanted to share this video of Sergei Lavrov addressing this attack. So there was, if we back up a little bit, there was if we go back to the White House YouTube page, you'll see that the day before Trump hosted Netanyahu, he hosted Zelensky. Zelensky's a great character because he sounds like such a like he sounds like such a thug. Let's just listen to him for a second. He sounds like a thug when he speaks. That's why he's straight from Central Casting. Okay, so they met at Mar-a-Lago. Zelensky says they're ready for peace. Okay, great. That night, Ukraine allegedly launched 91 drones at Novgorod. Let's look at where Novgorod is on the map. We should have done this on Badlands Daily, but sometimes there's just not enough time to go through everything with CanCon. But we always do the geography lesson here. So Novgorod is notable because it was, along with Kiev, the first capital of the proto-Russian nation. Novgorod was the original capital where, in the 10th century, the 900s, they invited the Rus people invited Rorik the Varangian, which is Russian for, which I believe was their language for Viking, from Scandinavia. So he was living somewhere in Scandinavia. Rorik comes to Novgorod, which is all the way up here near St. Petersburg, to become the king of the Rus people. The Rus went all the way from Novgorod down to Kiev. It was basically this whole region, like Latvia, Belarus, Ukraine, Moscow, this region right here, and then to the east of Russia were the Bulgars. Anyway, so and the Khazarians as well. So Rorik, so Novgorod is an important city in Russia, obviously. This is where the presidential or one of the presidential residences exists, and 91 drones fly from Ukraine toward Novgorod. They're all shot down by Russian air defense, and here is Sergei Lavrov's response to that. It's in Russian, so I'm going to read the American or the English translation. Maybe mute his voice. All right, so it says, on the night of December 28th, 29th, this would be the night that, this probably would have been like while Trump and Zelensky were wrapping up their meeting. So they met on the 28th. Russia's several hours ahead of the United States, ahead of Florida. So it would have been either right after or right as they were wrapping up their meeting. On the night of December 28th, 29th, 2025, the Kiev regime launched a terrorist attack using 91 long-range strike unmanned aerial vehicles on the state residence of the president of the Russian Federation in the Novgorod region. All unmanned aerial vehicles were destroyed by air defense systems of the Russian armed forces. There were no reports of casualties or damage from the UAV debris. We would like to point out that this action took place between intensive negotiations between Russia and the United States to resolve the Ukrainian conflict. Such reckless actions will not go unanswered. The targets for retaliatory strikes and the time for their implementation by the Russian armed forces have been determined. At the same time, we do not intend to withdraw from the negotiation process with the United States. However, given the final degradation of the criminal Kiev regime, which has moved toward a policy of state terrorism, Russia's negotiating position will be revised. Yeah, so they're my takeaway from what Lavrov is saying is that we, Russia, are going to continue to negotiate in good faith with the United States. We're going to reestablish our bilateral diplomacy with the United States, Golden Age, all that good stuff. At the same time, we are going to deal with these terrorists in Kiev. He said the military plan has already been mapped out, and the timing of it has already been mapped out. And obviously, sleep tight is what he's saying to everyone in Kiev. Sleep tight. And by everyone in Kiev, I mean the leadership of the Ukrainian government, because they're coming for him, obviously. And I would suspect they're probably coming for a few others outside of Kiev, because we all know that Kiev is not acting on its own. It's acting with the permission and the guidance of London, Paris, Washington, D.C., Langley, among other places, probably Israel. So, yeah, I mean, what does that mean? Who are they going to go after? I guess we'll wait and see. But very ominous threat from a guy who does not do ominous threats. Lavrov does not make idle threats to people. He's known as the cool, calm, and collected diplomat who does not say inflammatory stuff unless he really means it. So when he says that, he means it. We are going to kill these people. That's exactly what I think he means when he says that. And Zelensky, I think that both Lavrov and Putin have acknowledged that Zelensky is not the one in charge. He's not the one calling the shots. They know that. So we'll see. So I do find all that really interesting. I think that this was an interesting headline that I saw on RT from Larry Johnson. I mean, I'm familiar with Larry Johnson because I've seen him appear on Geopolitics show. Attack on Putin's residence could be an anti-Zelensky plot in Kiev. Targeting the Russian president while seeking Donald Trump's help with a peace deal was too blatant, Larry Johnson told RT. That's an interesting take on that. He says, quote, I don't think Zelensky is that stupid to launch that kind of attack while meeting with Trump. He argued in an interview on Tuesday. Johnson said he would not be surprised if Ukrainian intelligence personnel, possibly acting on orders from Kirill Budanov, head of the military espionage agency HUR, were involved. Quote, to do something so outrageous and so blatant while you are sitting there with Trump in your entire delegation to talk peace, there are clear elements in Ukraine that do not want peace, that are profiting too much from this war, and that were trying to sabotage American mediation, he added. How long is this clip? It's too long. It's a 10-minute clip. Yeah, I mean, I think it's actually a really interesting take, because that kind of aligns with the Burning Bright's Our Boy Z view, perspective. And when you think about the people in Ukraine who are profiting from the war, they only profit from the war if they have co-collaborators in DC and Europe who are sending them the money and the weapons, right? And then they're taking the weapons and they're selling the weapons to terrorist groups in Africa and the Middle East. So, I would love to see the money trail followed back so we could start arresting people in DC for war crimes. Because I think all these people, Lindsey Graham, all these people, I think all these warmongers in both the Republican and the Democrat Party, the Uniparty, are complicit in all of this, and they're all guilty. It would seem of war crimes. Who is guilty? We have to figure that out. But it's obvious that a giant graft scheme has been launched against the American people. Hundreds of billions of dollars have been stolen from us and sent to Eastern Europe, and then laundered out of Eastern Europe to God knows where. I think a lot of that money is actually going to finance terrorist groups in Africa and the Middle East. And to that point, maybe we can talk about one of the moves that is that has people asking questions. I think John asked me about this on Only Lands on Friday about the Somaliland thing. South Africa brands Israel's Somaliland move as cynical. West Jerusalem's recognition of the breakaway region undermines the prospects for peace, Pretoria's envoy to the UN has said. Quote, it is ironic and cynical that Israel wishes to be the only state to recognize Somaliland while at the same time rejecting recognition of the state of Palestine, which the overwhelming majority of UN member states have recognized as being legal in terms of international law. Now, the Somaliland thing is really interesting. We talked about it again on Only Lands for a few minutes. And the region, of course, we're talking about is the Horn of Africa. It's this region right here, this northern part of Somalia, that backs up to Djibouti and Ethiopia. I found
a document online, which I've only started digging into after Badlands Daily today. So I haven't had a lot of chance to digest it. So maybe we'll probably revisit this in the future. But I just figured since we're going to talk about Africa here for a few minutes, might as well note it. Let me pull this up. Computer's lagging real bad. Hopefully that's not coming through on the stream. Right here. All right, so this is a letter to the Secretary of State from the Foreign Service of the United States of America. And I believe this is from the B'nai B'rith, if I'm not mistaken. And so there's also enclosed, it says, is a Ethiopian government's reply. And basically what this is this is a request. It's a 34-page letter. I have the original PDF saved in my hard drive now. But here's page 16 of the 34-page letter. It says, this is dated from 1944. This is July 4th, 1944. The subject is the project for settlement of Jewish refugees in Harar province, Ethiopia. The reply of the Ethiopian government. So I guess this is from the Ethiopian government. And it says, my proposal is to unite the so-called Harar territory of Ethiopia with part of British Somaliland and create there a state for the European Jews. This territory is large enough. It would be easy to devote 60,000 to 70,000 square miles there for this purpose. This territory is inhabited by a small agricultural population, which are not likely to raise great difficulties. Nevertheless, it will be necessary to remember the lessons learned by the Palestine experience, namely to prevent the territory from being overrun by people from other parts of Ethiopia and to keep out foreign agitators. The climate on the plateau is absolutely healthy and suitable for Europeans. Those parts of the Somali coast, it's funny how they're referring to all the Israelis as Europeans. Those parts of the Somali coast, which have a bad climate, could be improved in measurable time by irrigation. The Harar territory is particularly suitable for agriculture and hence for mass immigration. It would have ready markets for its agricultural and later its industrial products in the interior of Africa and in the Arabian countries and in parts of India. Politically, these territories belong, as already stated, to Great Britain and the Empire of Ethiopia. In July of 1935, the British government proposed to the Emperor of Ethiopia that the port of Zayla and certain other parts of British Somaliland be ceded to him if he were prepared to make certain concessions to Italy. It is therefore not impossible that the British government may today be ready to cede a rather larger portion of Somaliland together with the port of Berbera to the European Jewish state we have in mind. The Imperial House of Ethiopia claims its descent from the Jewish King David, and the emperor bears the title, quote, Lion of Judah, end quote. Should this not also imply a certain obligation to offer much needed help to this half brethren in Europe and to receive them on terms worthy of the 20th century? The Jews, on their part, should have no objection to recognizing the overlordship of the Emperor of Ethiopia with some guarantees from Great Britain and the USA. May the Lion of Judah prove that he combines the courage of David, the wisdom of Solomon, and the good sense of the Queen of Sheba. And then here's a map that shows you what they're talking about. And you can see, says, on the question of as to who should inhabit this new state, I offer the following suggestions. No one should be compelled to immigrate into this state. Every Jew, whether he considers himself as such or is classed as such against his will, should have the right to enter this state. Beyond these two parts, the government of Harar should have the right to give or deny permission to enter or reside in this territory. So here is the territory they're talking about. They're talking about carving out this area, which is right next to Djibouti. It's shaded in here. So it's actually a significant part of Ethiopia, and then actually a very relatively small part of Somalia. But as I understand it, Somaliland is now recognized as running all the way over to this line. But that's interesting. It's interesting that this is that this is out there. So we'll see. But just something to chew on. I thought maybe I would share
some of the stuff that I've been working on with this terrorist tracking thing. I'm still getting the SV files are being really fussy. Basically, I'm going to this website, the World Bank Group, and I'm downloading like CSV files, but they're hard to find. A lot of times you click on it and it takes you to like this. You get bad gateway. That happens like all the time with this website, or you get this 404 file or directory not found. But basically, these are like big spreadsheet, like Excel spreadsheet files that have all the data for like the price of food going back month by month, going back to like 2007. And so I've been trying to download these. I've set up AI. AI basically says it's prepared to digest this information and spit out something that's more comprehensible as soon as I can get the right CSV file. But every CSV file I am able to download ends up not having the data that I'm looking for. So that's been a little frustrating. I did find this website, FuseNet, Famine Early Warning System Network, which is some NGO. And it seems like they set up this website to justify their existence or justify their funding. But they had this useful interactive map, and this is effectively what I was going to get AI to create for me. So I don't know how reliable the data is that they're feeding into this thing, but it does seem to track with what my understanding of the situation is. And so it kind of goes back really June of 2021. It looks like, I mean, there's October 2017, but there's no data. Right. And so June of 2021, which I assume is maybe when this group started operating, you start to see this is like ISIS taking over. So ISIS takes over. ISIS is starting to flood into, this is Burkina Faso that we're looking at. And just to give you context of where this is, here's the map of Africa, right? So Burkina Faso, ISIS floods in here. All these little exclamation points are basically indicate that the color would potentially be one shade darker than it's showing right now. It's showing as mostly yellow, which means stressed, but it actually, anywhere there's an exclamation point, it probably is more likely orange instead of yellow, but and it says it would be that way were it not for humanitarian food assistance. So the NGO is kind of like saying, if it weren't for us being in there giving out food, everywhere that has an exclamation point would be one shade darker. The orange would be red, half the yellow would be orange. So that's June 2021. Here's October 2021. This is just a few months later. You can see the crisis is obviously getting worse. The orange has become red. More of the yellow has become orange. And that brings us to February 2022. Now, this would be when February 2022 would be when the original general, this would be Ibrahim Traore's general, his commanding officer, would have led the original coup against the government. And the reason they did the coup was because ISIS is taking over Burkina Faso, and we have to, and you're not doing anything about it. The government's not helping. So the military is not going to take over. Remember, the colors that we're looking at on the map now is not ISIS activity. The colors are food shortages. But my theory is that if we can track food shortages in these African countries, we can track where the terrorist activity is happening. And if we can track where the terrorist activity is happening, we may be able to track where the money is flowing from Ukraine into Africa. So now we jump forward. Here's June 2022. So you can see how much worse it gets. So the general overthrows the government in early 2022, right? And then in a matter of months, look how much worse it gets from February to June. All right, the red spreads, the orange spreads, and now there's areas. The yellow has now spread to most of the country. Ouagadougou, the capital, is now being threatened by their food shortages. And then by the time we get to October, it's pulled back a little bit. But October, by this time, Ibrahim Traore has stepped in and he's overthrown his commanding general, and he's taken over as the leader of Burkina Faso. And so then you start to see, as you move, it gets worse. It gets better. And now when you get to 2024, it's like you can see how much worse the food is going to. It like fluctuates. It goes up and down, up and down, up and down. So again, like I need to see the data. Like I don't know where the data is that they're feeding into this, but when you get to October 2025, it's much better than it was in October 2024 or in June of 2024. So in the past year and a half, it looks like things have improved. And then let's see. This is right now, like January 2026, what they're projecting. The red is all gone. And then they're projecting that things are going to get worse in the next 6 months. So I don't know. Again, this is an NGO that is justifying its own existence and its own funding. So I don't expect them to be fully forthright with their data. They, skewing the data to make it look like they, are making a difference or make it look like they need more funding. I would not put it past an NGO to do that. But this is what I'm tracking. I'm tracking this. I want to get the actual data, though, of like the market price of rice for each one of these little regions month by month, and then plug that into my own chart and make my own chart, and then put that side by side with terrorist attacks and reported activity in these areas and find the correlation. If there is a correlation, then we can maybe develop a model for tracking this on our own. So we don't need to rely on an NGO or the State Department or any of these other liars to tell us what's going on. We can just figure it out on our own. But this is us trying to sidestep all the liars in our society and basically create an autonomous, independent media, I guess you'd say, or just an apparatus for understanding this stuff better than we do right now. And Burkina Faso represents a unique case study because we know that things got really bad there around 2022, 2023. We know that a strongman stepped in, a benevolent strongman stepped in and has improved the country since then. So that gives us a framework that we can operate from and use to track the data and see what we come up with. There's few other countries that we could look at that I could reliably understand the narrative, whereas the narrative here is very clear that of what's happened from a broad stroke standpoint. So that's why I like looking at this as a case study. But we could take this potentially and we could apply it to other parts of the world. We could apply it to other countries. We could apply it to Syria. We could apply it to other regions. But first, we got to kind of lock down what that template looks like. So that's one of the many things that I've been working on. Yep. So, yep, I didn't have it on screen. St. Pete picked a bad day to not be in listen only mode. Yeah. Okay. So here's the map. Here's the map, guys. Sorry about that. Here's the map that I'm talking about. And we'll go back and I'll just kind of give you a quick little brush through of what it looks like. Here's October 2021. Here's February 2022. So you can see how it's getting red. Like the yellow is stressed, the orange is crisis, the red is emergency. And you can see how here is where the original general overthrows the Burkinabe government. Here is where Ibrahim Traore overthrows his general and takes control. Things get a little dicier in 2023. And then here is coming all the way up to today. So things have cleaned up a lot. There's more food, less food shortage. And then I'll go back and I'll show you the other thing that I was reading. The other thing I was looking at before was just this letter. So you weren't missing anything by not seeing my screen. I was just reading this letter to you from 1944 about settling Ethiopia and parts of Somalia to basically create Israel. And they decided to go in a different direction. But here's the map that you can see. This is Yemen. This is the Red Sea. And this little shaded area with the diagonal lines, that's that's what they were proposing for Israel. It would have taken up a very small part of Somalia and then Ethiopia. And I'll show you on the map what that looks like. So here's Somalia. Here's Ethiopia. So they were talking about basically this region right here. Let me see if I can draw it on by measuring. They're talking about something like this. It was something like that. Like that was going to be Israel. And if you look at that, compare it side by side with that Israel, maybe it was a little smaller than that. Maybe it was more like this. Something like that. But that's what they're talking about. So you didn't miss anything by not looking at it. But and then this was the data catalog that I was looking at. I was just trying to download these CSV files, and a lot of the times I'm getting this or I'm getting this, but every once in a while I do get I do find an actual spreadsheet, and I'm able to upload it into AI, and then it tells me, oh, this is the agricultural data, but not the food prices. This is the food prices, but not for Burkina Faso, for Sudan, right? And so it's frustrating trying to like find the right CSV file, but these websites are not set up to run very well. And then I've found things like this, the annex of statistical information from 2022 country reports on terrorism. So I'm using this to try to understand where the terrorist attacks are happening, and again, I'm like relying on their data, so it's not ideal, but you can fact check a lot of this with news reports and that sort of thing, and see what actually is what is and what isn't. So anyway, it might just be a big waste of time, but we'll find out. We'll see. All right, so what are we at? We're at 3:30. Let's see what the chat's talking about, aside from the fact that I screwed up the technology. What's up, chat? Let's see if we have any rants or boosts. Yeah, pattern recognition. That's exactly what it is. We're doing pattern recognition because if we can figure this out, and if we can look at Burkina Faso and figure out what the formula is, then we might be able to like look at this for Democratic Republic of Congo, to look at this for Syria, to look at this for Ukraine. I mean, there are a lot of different places where you could take this. So, all right, let's look at badlandsmedia.tv/boost. I'm probably going to wind things down. Just got to go check on my kids. All right, so we have, I think we're caught. Nope, Vicky Dirk from December 26th, $10. Thanks for your insight and love of your family. Well, thank you, Vicky Dirk. Appreciate your support. Thanks for being here. And then the other one looks like we already covered. So thank you, Vicky Dirk. Yeah, guys, hit the thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. You will get from time to time my technical proficiency on this show. Yeah, and I appreciate all of the support. Let's see. The next week is going to be a little strange. So we are going to do a show on Friday. We'll do Breaking History tomorrow with Matt. The show on Thursday, The Choice, is pre-recorded. That's New Year's Day. And then next week, I guess maybe we'll talk about it more on Friday, but next week I'm not going to be in town on Tuesday. So probably won't be we're probably just going to punt on the show on Tuesday. There probably just won't be a show on Tuesday. But we will be back in default like the next Friday. So there will be a show this Friday and there'll be a show next Friday. There probably won't be a show on Tuesday. So hit the thumbs up and we will see y'all on Friday. All right, guys. Thanks again, and y'all have a great evening.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.